Like Oscar Schindler and the man who played him, Liam Neeson, I'd like to make lists.
You notice this list, huh? I'm always making lists.
Oh.
In fact, that's probably why Steven Spielberg cast me as Oscar Schindler's List. I said, Steven, I make lists all the time. And he said, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
And this being the end of the year, I figured I'd do a couple of best or worst lists over the next few days to look back on the past year and pave the way for the year ahead. If you follow my channel, and why the hell don't you, you know that I count down my favorite horror movies of the year in October. But since horror never sleeps and quite a bit of good stuff has come out since October 1st, the first countdown is focused on some awesome films released in the last 3 months of 2023. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below, share this video with all of your social media addicted pals, click subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell for notifications. In order of release date, here's my list of some great films released since October 1st, 2023. Appendage was released on October 2nd, 2023. It's streaming on Hulu and directed and written by Anna Zlokovic. Appendage is a small movie with big and gross-out ideas. It's a body horror film about a woman who wakes up one day to the realization that something is growing from her side, just under her skin. Turns out it's a twin absorbed at birth, and sometimes, later in life, that twin tries to have a life of its own. This happens so commonly, a support group has been made for people suffering from this problem. Not only is the body horror pretty darn gross, but things take some twisty turns later in this one. The lead actress, Hadley Robinson, reacts to all of this oddity pretty realistically, and while things get a little Scooby-Dooey during the climax, I like the whole mythology that's set up with rules, strengths, and weaknesses of this monster. This is a fun little movie that's bound to make you squirm. VHS 85 was released October 5th, 2023. It's streaming on Shudder. It's directed by David Bruckner, Scott Derrickson, Nastasha Kermani, Mike P. Nelson, and Gigi Saul Guerrero, and written by C. Robert Cargill, Zoe Cooper, Scott Derrickson, Evan Dickson, Mike P. Nelson, and Gigi Saul Guerrero. While not all of them are winners, VHS 85 is a strong installment in this series that has a lot of fun with the video format of 85, with its grainy tracking, rough edits, and a tendency to tape things over other things on the same videotape. There's a nice way that each of the segments of this film kind of overlaps into each other, as it all seems to be part of one bigger story, while it still maintains a distinct look and feel to each segment. I love the earthquake segment, and the Unsolved Mysteries style program about a captured alien that learns from watching TV is quite chilling. But for me, the best was a fun 2-in-1 story of a bunch of boaters getting stalked by a family of killers and the revenge these boaters take on them. This one's got a hell of a good group of creatives. You might not know all of them, but the VHS series has consistently spawned the next generation of horror icons, and I imagine more will be up and coming from this one. ABERRANCE was released October 6th, 2023. It's available on demand and digital download from Three Flames Pictures. It's directed by Baatar Batsukh and written by Baatar Batsukh, Trevor Doyle, Byambasuren, Ganbat, Alex Khan, and Erdene Orosoo. ABERRANCE is a highly original art house horror film from Mongolia about a strange man and wife who move into a secluded cabin in the middle of a snow-covered woods. Their only neighbor is quite curious about the people next door and feels something bad is going on. After some snooping, the neighbor feels his assumptions are correct. But ABERRANCE is a movie full of twists and turns where perspectives are flipped and expectations are upended numerous times by the time the credits roll. While I think there may have been a few too many of these twists, I love the unpredictable plot and director Baatar's creative use of camera work reminds me of a young Sam Raimi. This is a visually spectacular little film that ends on a devious and memorable note. 15 Cameras was released October 13th, 2023. It's available on demand and digital download from Gravitas Pictures. It's directed by Danny Madden and written by PJ McCabe. The third entry in the 13 Cameras series is a strong one. Even though the creepy landlord, played marvelously by Neville Archambault, passed away last year, director Danny Madden is able to pay wonderful homage to the actor with this third installment through camera trickery and edits from previous films. While I feel that they should end the 13 Cameras series after this one, since it would be bad taste to have the landlord show up in movies after his death, Madden and McCabe open up new avenues to dissect the skin-crawling world of voyeurism and how easily the most normal of people can get caught up in it. This is illustrated in two ways. A man who discovers the creeper's little peephole setup in an apartment he just bought, and his wife who becomes obsessed with the story that played out over the last two films, which has been made into a Netflix-style documentary series. The results are a film that definitely needs to be talked about after viewing. The entire 13 Cameras series is great all the way through, and this installment shows that those behind the camera know creepy and communicate it well. Too well. Dark Harvest was released on October 13th, 2023. It's available on demand from MGM and United Artists Releasing. It's directed by David Slade and written by Michael Giglio and Norman Partridge. Part Children of the Corn, part Pumpkinhead, and part The Village, David Slade's film isn't perfect, but it manages to convey a complex story without tripping over itself. Sure, the setup, that every year a secluded Midwestern community holds a contest where the senior high school class are let loose to do battle with a monster from the cornfields on Halloween, is a little bit more complicated for its own good. While some feel the corn monster is an urban myth, it seems there really is a monster, and while the kids are tearing each other apart to become the winner, the monster rampages through the town. Jammed in there is a message about racism for no real reason, but once the monster is unleashed, this film gets good and never really lets up until the somewhat predictable, yet truly entertaining end. I love this movie for what it tried to do, and while it didn't do it all right, what it did was pretty glorious. Ghosts of the Void was released on October 13th, 2023. It's available on demand and digital download from Speakeasy Films. It's directed and written by Jason Miller. Here's another little treat that could easily be overlooked because of its vague title. It's about a down-and-out couple forced to live in their car once their landlord kicks them out of their apartment, who picked the wrong place to park their car for the night. Taking pages from The Strangers, three masked people show up and begin tormenting them. But there's more going on here than is on the surface. I don't want to give too much away, but the film really holds its cards well and has a really cool psychological aspect to it. Some might be angered by the ending, and it is kind of cliched if I'm being honest, but I think the movie handles it solidly. It helps that leads Tedra Milan and Michael Regan are really good playing flawed but likable characters. When Evil Lurks, aka Cuando Achea la Maldad, was released on October 27th, 2023. It's streaming on Shudder from IFC Films. It's directed and written by Damien Rugna. This movie shot to the top of pretty much everyone's best of the whole 2023 horror list, and while I don't think it beats Infinity Pool, which was the top of my list last year, it does offer up some of the more memorable scenes of sheer terror you're going to see. The dog attack scene is bar none the most shocking sequence I've witnessed in ages, but that's just the beginning. This one has the same feeling of dread that permeated The Dark and the Wicked, as a pair of simple men travel across the countryside attempting to avoid an evil plague that follows a very specific set of rules. If you break any of these rules, whoa Nelly, are you in trouble. Director Damien Rugna entranced me with his last film, Terrified, and this one doubles down on the sheer dread, terror, and shock. We'll see what the new year brings, but this is a contender for my best of the best in horror in next year's October countdown. Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor, was released October 30th, 2023. It's streaming on Shudder from Terror Films. It's directed and written by Stephen Cognetti. Like a comfortable pair of sweatpants or an old pair of sneakers, watching the newest installment of the Hell House LLC series gave me a warm fuzzy feeling whilst scaring those shoes and sweatpants right off of me. Does this film basically repeat the same scares that have been used in the last 3 Hell House LLC films? You bet your sweet ass it does. Did it work again this 4th time around? You bet your sweet ass again. There are some added elements to this prequel to the original Hell House trilogy, and it does open things up for new installments, but basically it's another film from Stephen Cognetti with nail-nibbling sequences and shocking imagery, most of the time involving those scary-ass clowns. If they're this good, I don't mind the repetition. Keep 'em coming. Where the Devil Roams was released November 5th, 2023. It's available on demand and digital download from Yellow Veil Pictures and Wonder Wheel Productions. It's directed and written by John Adams, Zelda Adams, and Toby Poser. The newest film from the Adams family is by far their most experimental and artsy, but it's also their most well thought out and proof that with a bit more of a budget, John Adams, Zelda Adams, and Toby Poser can really deliver some visions of nightmare and wonder. Set during the Depression era, the Adams play a family of drifters who perform in a traveling circus. The mobility of the circus gives Toby Poser's character, Maggie, a chance to satisfy her bloodlust by killing folks she deems evil, even though her husband, Seven, played by John Adams, is petrified at the sight of blood, and her daughter, Eve, can only communicate through song. What plays out is bloody and beautiful and poetic and nightmarish and utterly unique. There's nothing quite like the Addams Family, and if you're into films depicting things you've never seen before, Where the Devil Roams is it. Thanksgiving was released November 17th, 2023. It's available on demand and digital download from TriStar Pictures and Sony Pictures Releasing. It's directed by Eli Roth and written by Jeff Rendell and Eli Roth. Though it took him 16 years to get it made, Eli Roth finally delivers his holiday slasher flick promised as a trailer in Grindhouse with Thanksgiving. Roth doesn't really try to reinvent the slasher wheel, but is able to make a film that basically feels like a holiday-themed Scream film, embracing his love of giallo and slashers. Thanksgiving is over the top and goes all over the place. The kills are quite gruesome, and the Thanksgiving parade scene makes it all worthwhile. This is a slasher that doesn't make fun of the slasher genre like the Scream series, and fits in with those great slashers of old, confidently and comfortably. There's a new one in the works, and I can't wait to see what kind of fixins Roth has in store for us next time, as this holiday slasher definitely wasn't a turkey. Do Not Disturb was released November 21st, 2023. It's available on demand and digital download from Darkstar Pictures. It's directed and written by John Ainsley. While it might be mixed up with a Netflix show with the same name that was released this last year, those who stumble upon Do Not Disturb are in for some absolutely disturbing shit. A troubled couple's vacation gets turned upside down when they happen upon a bunch of drugs and decide that it's a good idea to take them all at once. What transpires is gory, gross, and absolutely riveting as the couple become downright primal to each other and to anyone who happens into their hotel room. While they both play absolutely loathsome people, Rogan Christopher and especially Kimberly Laferriere offer up scandalously good performances. Even while some horrifying things are depicted, director-writer John Ainsley still manages to make things sexy, funny, and poignant. This one shouldn't be missed, especially for the gorehounds out there. The Sacrifice Game was released December 8th, 2023. It's streaming on Shudder. It's directed by Jen Wexler and written by Sean Redlitz and Jen Wexler. If you've been following my coverage of holiday horror films, you know making a holiday horror work is no easy feat. Director-writer Jen Wexler does it, though, in this entertaining tale of a trio of gals spending Christmas alone at a boarding school, who run afoul of a roaming band of murderous cultists. The film has some great performances by newcomers Mina Massoud, Olivia Scott Welch, and Laurent Petrie, and while she's slightly miscast as a young teacher, Chloe Levine, who was in Wexler's last film, The Ranger, proves to consistently deliver performances that are equal parts charming and tragic. I like the boppy pace to The Sacrifice Game, and that ending, though it's been done before, really nails the landing. Finally, there's Birth Rebirth. It was released way back on September 5th, 2023, and it's streaming on Shudder from IFC Films. It's directed by Laura Moss and written by Laura Moss and Brendan J. O'Brien. Though it came out in August and I didn't see it because, well, I can't see everything, I'm putting Birth Rebirth on this list because, well, for the hell of it, and I like making 13-tier lists. For those completists, I'm categorizing Birth Rebirth right around the number 11.5 in between Two Witches and Project Wolf Hunting of my countdown that I did last October. Why? Because of the fantastic performances by the two leads, Marin Ireland and Judy Reyes, and I always love me a good Frankenstein story. Birth Rebirth really conveys the harrowing emotions of losing a child and the desperation one feels to keep someone who is obviously dying alive for as long as one can. Director Laura Moss is able to capture these complex emotions and makes a wonderful allegory asking us why we keep people, pets, relationships, whatever, alive long after its expiration date has passed. This is a slow burner, but an emotional power keg. So if you're looking for the best in horror in the last 3 months, that was it. You might feel differently or want to add something I missed, and that's what the comments section is for. I'll be back with another horror list very soon. Until then, Happy New Year.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're